It takes a long time to, not always, but it takes a long time to create a relationship that has intense emotions in it. It's usually something that people often experience in romantic relationships, that you're single, alone, minding your own business, your life is going relatively okay. There is no sense of grief or loss about you. Your life is comfortable. And someone catches your eye, and it's something that someone like Jean-Paul Sartre would say, that they steal you from you, that there is really nothing missing in your life, but all of a sudden you run into someone or you run into something, and they begin to hold part of you within them. And as you walk away, you feel as if you have left part of yourself behind. And so you begin to pursue them. And as you spend more time with this thing, both in terms of actual time with the thing, as well as imaginative time, that you daydream about them, you fantasize about them, little by little you create a story, you create history. And as this relationship becomes more strong, more intense, that thing holds more of you in it, and you have less of you to yourself. Now, prior to this time, again, there are no pangs of separation. You don't really feel much. You don't miss anything. And so, as this thing holds more of you, and as you held more of yourself to yourself, you realize that whenever you're not around this particular thing or this particular person, a big chunk of you is missing. And you try to look for it, find it in other things. Maybe you want to watch a movie to just forget. Maybe you have a conversation. And so this idea of separation happens only when you've been exposed to something, like to another person. And let's just call it you fall in love. And one of the things that love does is that it really does give you a good amount of value. And when it's not around, it takes that value away. And this value comes in terms of the way you think about things. It comes in the way of you feeling intensely about yourself, about this other person, about life. Just everything changes. And so I suppose initially you don't really feel the pangs of separation, because as long as you're with this person, there is union, there is ecstasy, even if the person isn't there. But you know, at any time you could go to them. At any time you could call them, at any time you could hear their voice. Even though physical separation is quite painful, the very fact that once in a while you can hear their voice, that in itself is like an oasis. It brings a sense of comfort, and you don't grieve as much, you don't feel the sense of loss as much. Also, depending on how wrapped up you are with this other person, and when this person is not around you, there is a good part of you that feels dead. And like any funeral service, you go there because someone very close to you has passed away, and you really do feel a sense of loss. It's a great sense of loss, and you kind of feel lost, you're grieving. And sometimes people grieve passively, and sometimes people grieve actively, in the sense that they're enraged, they become really, really angry. You know, in union, you really do feel as if you're in paradise. It's like so much of life gets beautified. You, for the first time, you feel whole. And all those 7 deadly sins, greed and lust, for other things, not so much for the person you're with and the person that you want, everything disappears. There is such a feeling of content. It's something I've always believed, which is, you know, when you fall in love, and when that love takes a physical form, and in that physical form there is a great amount of physicality, you know, intimacy. It's really the best time to die, because you die in such a fulfilled way. Everything about you that's human just washes away. You know, our time with Hussein was interesting in the sense that not only did I miss Hussein when he wasn't around, what I also missed was these ideas are so potent. They really offer you this promised land. You just have no idea where to go. You have no idea what to do. They really do make you more than human, and you expect so much from yourself. and you want so much from yourself, and you do so much for other people. And these ideas push you to look for something, and you don't really know what it is that you're looking for, but you're looking for it nevertheless. And so you realize you're being kind of assaulted by two fronts. The first front is there's a guy you're working with, and there's a guy you like, and there's a guy you love. And when you go to his house, there is comfort, there is solace, there is unification of sorts. You sit there, you listen, you hear, you feel. And once in a while, the wheels in your brain begin to kind of turn, and you begin to think about this and that a little bit. And then when he opens his mouth and, talks about these ideas, it really, if you happen to be in the right place, and when you're in love, you're always in the right place. It's so inspiring. You're kind of like lifted out of your body, and you're just pushed into a different realm. And you don't think about how your drive home is going to be, or how you're going to be when you go home to rest your body, or how your morning is going to be when you wake up in bed, only to come to realize that you've returned back to life and life has nothing to offer you. And you long to go back to Hussein's house, but Hussein has a life, and you don't want to seem so needy, and you try to kind of man it up and say, no, I'll be okay, when in fact you're just shattered on the inside. Moments of unity, they are rare. I'm not talking about like going to Hussein's house, sitting for a few hours. These ideas push you towards something, and you have no idea what they are. But there is this great sense of loss, and you don't know what you've lost, and you don't know where you have to go to look for it. You don't want to be sad, but you are. You don't want to be depressed, but you are. You don't want to be angry, but you are. You don't want to blame your husband or your wife for your condition, but you just don't know who else to beat up. You don't have the strength to beat yourself up, because you do that on a daily basis, every hour. You want someone to understand you, to hold you, but everybody feels such a stranger. It really is like you've gone to your own funeral, and nothing tastes good, nothing feels good. A few years back, when there were these two guys, Chris and Brian, and I was doing a lot of backyard work. They would like come here at 9 in the morning, and they would work like a mule until 2, 3. And then of course I would head to class, and they would come to the class later on, and I would always tell them, go home and rest your bodies. If you want to come back here tomorrow, you can, just let me know. And I would think that, they're going to have their lunch, they're going to go home, they're going to rest. Maybe they're going to think about, I went to this guy's house, I worked for 5, 6 hours, what am I, crazy? Maybe I should clean my own house, or wash my own car, or get a second job, make some more money, or just rest, have a good time with life, But as they're leaving, they would look at me and say, well, do you mind if you come here tomorrow again? And it wasn't so much about me needing their bodies here so they can, help me with the backyard, because I remember how it felt to be a student. But I really did want to be around Hussein all the time, and without him I kind of felt lost. There is no feeling of separation if you're not in a relationship. And there is no feeling of separation if your relationship is casual. The relationship has to be intense. That a good amount of you has to be inside this other person. And the only way you can see your own reflection, and that reflection has to do with, you want these ideas to come to life. And when you're here, you're working in the backyard, it's like your feelings and your thoughts and your mind and your body are one and the same. They're all harmoniously working together. We sit together, we have food together. Once in a while we plow the land together and we talk. And if it's intense enough, they look at you and say, is it okay if we just don't go home? We brought some extra clothes here, we'll just take a shower and we'll see you on campus. I would say, sure. Because it was like this house becomes an extension of me, and as long as they're here, they continue to have the feeling that they're home, and that's one of the nice things about unity. Human beings are really, really restless for such a huge part of their life. Once in a while we fall in love and you feel at home. Once in a while you grab a book and you open the pages and you read, and it just pulls you in and you feel at home. Sometimes you have a good conversation But these moments are so rare. You know, once in a while you sit and watch a good movie and you kind of just forget everything, and the movie drags you in and you're one of the characters. Separation is always with pain, always. There is so much doubt and there is so much fear and there is so much loneliness and despair in separation. You know, when you fall in love with someone, it's like your body is just reserved for that one person. And just in case you lay that body down with another human being, you kind of feel as if something about you has been violated. You hate yourself for having put yourself in that position. When I couldn't reach Hussein, whether it was because I was too shy to call him and say, I want to come over, I would try to find people who were connected to Hussein. One was my mom's cousin, the other Hussein. And they would go there, or I would go there, and I would ask him. And I didn't go there for Hussein. I went there because I knew that Hussein would be an extension. He would be an alarm clock. He would remind me of how it feels to be at Hussein's house. I would often ask Hussein to tell me how he met Hussein and how their relationship evolved. And I wasn't really interested in the story. I just wanted to hear the name Hussein, and I wanted to kind of picture in my mind, you know, the two Husseins meeting each other, talking to each other. I was lucky for the first 10 years because if I couldn't reach Hussein and I felt this pain of separation, I had all these Sufi texts, classical Persian, Arabic. I would sit for hours and read them because they would really be the extension of Hussein's ideas and Hussein's conversations with us. But then you have these moments where there is nothing that can pull you out of yourself and your miserable condition. There is a story about the Indian version of Romeo and Juliet, Layli Majnun, where Majnun is in the desert, he's walking, he's lost. Layli is going to be married to someone else. And there's a guy in the middle of the desert. You know, he has his prayer rug out, he's praying. And Majnun, without noticing him, just walks on his prayer rug. And this old man gets really, really angry. He says to him, "What's wrong with you? Have you no shame? Can't you see me praying?" And Majnun looks at him and says, "You know, I keep thinking about my woman. I couldn't even see you. The pain has blinded me. And you say you were praying. You were only supposed to think of God or truth or whatever. And yet, you know, you saw me, and I wonder who is really praying, me or you?" In separation, you feel as if you are in a desert, that there is no nourishment out there, that there are no shades, there are no oases. You're just stranded in the middle of nowhere. You can't do much. You have no power. I think this line from Rumi, that دردی است غیر مردن کان را دوا نباشد پس من چگونه گویم که این درد را دوا کن. I can't say this is true for everyone, and since this is Rumi's poem, maybe he's just talking about himself. Once you're exposed, once you're in love, once you find a teacher, once this teacher transforms you, once there is intimacy, something about you has forever changed. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't forget once in a while. You will. And you will go back to life and you will do whatever. But then it comes up. And as you get older, it refuses to go down. And you feel guilty and you feel ashamed for where you've just spent time. That there is this pain, dardi is ghayr murdan, that there is this pain that nothing can remedy. Only through death can this pain go away. So how can I ask anyone to cure this pain that I have? I think if you have been exposed to these ideas, and if you've been exposed, had an experience that has opened certain parts of you, and it was like a gift, you're going to have many days where you feel this separation. And I don't think there is anyone or anything that can help it, except the very thing that opened it. The only thing you can hope for is, you know, I was very lucky in the sense that there came a point where I no longer missed Hussein. And because I no longer missed Hussein, he didn't have any parts of me inside him that I was looking for. He wasn't anymore the person who had parts of me in him. I could find what I was looking for in books and a couple of other teachers I was working with at the time. The feeling of separation is very healthy despite all the pain and the discomfort it brings about. It makes sure that you don't have fun. You know, this idea that the Naqshbandis have, Hoosh dar dam. Hoosh means being aware, dam means breath or the moment. Hoosh dar dam. There is something about pain that keeps you awake. There is something about pain that makes you aware and reminds you. But should separation happen, we should always remember Hafiz's poem. یوسف گم گشته باز آید به کنعان غم مخور کلبه احزان شود روزی گلستان غم مخور ای دل غم دیده حالت به شود دل بد مکن بین سر شوریده باز آید به سامان غم مخور گرد و روزی دور گردون بر مراد ما نرفت دائما یکسان نماند دور گردون غم مخور. That there is this Joseph or Yusuf within you that's beautiful, and once in a while you hold it. But going back to Gurdjieff, life doesn't like people to be reminded of Joseph within. Life wants to make sure that people remain asleep, that people remain unaware of the Joseph, that their evolution really is just they're born, they live out their life, and they die. Joseph is you have to dive deep into this well, but you're not going to dive unless you feel as if what you're looking for lives down there in this dark pit. And this separation, the more you love, the more intense is the experience of separation. And you're going to cry. As Hafiz tells us in that particular poem, you're going to cry and cry and cry until you become blind. And you're not going to be interested in anything. And when you're blind, you just sit and you just pray. And you begin to look for unification, not so much through your senses, but through your sense of smell. I guess it's what the Indians would say, the nose of your nose. That you have this spiritual nose now that awakens, and you begin to sniff around and see if you can find the path that you've lost. Ultimately, of course, the poem argues that be patient, endure, suffer in silence, suffer with a good amount of maturity. Eventually what you have lost will be given to you.